guest for this segment is Joe Asher, who is the CEO of William Hill US, and a fellow who's got to be one of the most excited and fatigued people in America right now. A few months ago, we were speculating what would happen with sports betting, and the United States Supreme Court basically opened the floodgates. And what have you been doing the last few months, Joe?
Well, it's been busy. It's certainly been a busy few months for sure. We've gotten up and running with full sports betting in Delaware from just the parlays only, and of course New Jersey right after that, and then Mississippi and West Virginia, in addition to growing the Nevada business. Next up, and probably the last two for this year, I think, are Pennsylvania and Rhode Island, and so we're working hard to get those going. And so there's just a massive amount happening in the business, and it's been great to see the early customer feedback from just the number of people who are showing up to place bets now where it's legal, the amount that they're betting, and it's just a very exciting time in our business.
How is that initial reaction? Is it about what you would have expected or greater?
Well, it's hard to say in that I always knew there was a big demand for sports betting, and certainly in the Northeast, and you just knew it was going to do well in Jersey. But there was a photo making its way around Twitter today that I saw of the crowd in the sports book at the Ocean Resort on Saturday night for the McGregor fight, and it was just mobbed. I mean, I just can't believe it, the number of people there. And I see that every Sunday. I spent the first Sunday of the NFL season this year at Monmouth Park, and it was just unbelievable to see the people in line from 10 in the morning throughout the afternoon and sitting around the sports book, eating, watching the games and all that kind of stuff. So clearly there's been a big customer acceptance of this in the very early days.
It's sort of like the early days of riverboat gaming, where people would stand in hours for the privilege of paying to get on board a riverboat, gamble for 2 hours before had to leave and get on a neighboring boat because they weren't allowed to be on for more than 2 hours. And eventually, of course, there was a shaking out of the industry. And right now with sports betting, we have all of these companies coming in from the UK and from Europe, coming to the US for the first time, trying to figure it out, signing contracts. How do you see this settling out? Are we going to be here 3 or 4 years from now, maybe 2 or 3 major players? Or?
Well, I think it's to be determined. Clearly there are a number of entrants in the market in New Jersey. And look, a lot of people, maybe they're taking New Jersey as almost like the Iowa caucuses in the election, where you got to do well in Iowa to go on to the next state. And so I think a lot of the newcomers may have that perspective. We've been focusing on getting up and running in the states where it's legal. What does it look like 5 years out? It's a big mystery. It'll clearly there are going to be some operators that are going to be successful. I think we'll get our fair share for sure, and beyond that, it'll be up to the consumers to decide.
You've signed some enterprise-wide contracts. You've got Penn National, you've got Eldorado, and you're a bookmaker. Is that basically the core for William Hill? You're not going to get involved so much in the platform business and some of these other businesses?
Well, I think our core business here in the U.S. is an operator, and we provide the technology, but we also operate. It's a little different in Mississippi, driven by regulation, and I think regulations to some extent will decide it. In that, in Mississippi, the casinos are the operators themselves, and we're the risk manager for them, and we provide the technology as well. Of course, we're the risk manager for the Delaware Lottery and in the future for Rhode Island. So to some extent, it'll be driven by regulation. But certainly our core Nevada business and the business that we're rolling out and engaged in now in New Jersey is as an operator where we provide a turnkey solution, as distinct from somebody who might just provide a platform.
You listed earlier the states that have legalized. We know the states that are very likely to legalize within the next year. If you could look further out and at a mature sports betting industry in the United States, what do you think it might look like?
Well, I think at some point most of the states will have legalized. Now, I won't give you a date, so you won't be able to tell me I was wrong. But obviously the major states at some point, whether New York, there was a bill that had some momentum this year, but ultimately didn't get done. Whether it happens next year at the time of the budget, I think remains to be seen, because there's going to be a transition there. California, like many gaming issues, you have the tribes, which play a significant role in what happens there. Florida, of course, there's a ballot initiative this year on the expansion of gambling, which may play a role. And so, the major states, I think, are at this point anyway unclear. But you've got plenty of states like Illinois and Ohio and Iowa and others that Maryland. That will hopefully something happens sooner rather than later. But it gets wrapped up in all sorts of issues, right, beyond the merits of sports betting. It gets wrapped up into broader political issues, and different states will do different things, and that's okay, because the fundamental thesis of the Supreme Court case was that this should be an issue for the states to decide and not for the federal government. And so it's perfectly fine for it to develop on a state-by-state basis. There was a congressional hearing within the last week or two. Certainly our view is we don't think anything further should happen at the federal level. There's already plenty of federal regulation in sports betting already, between the federal excise tax and the FinCEN requirements. But gambling is a matter that's historically regulated by the states, and certainly we think that should continue, and there's nothing for Congress to do at present. But we'll obviously continue to monitor it and see how it plays out.
Okay. Well, Joe, thanks for that overview, and congratulations on all the exciting things that you guys are doing at William Hill.
Well, no, thanks very much. Look, we've got a great team of people, and I'm fortunate to work with them day in and day out, and I'm really proud of what they've accomplished.
Okay. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Frank.